What's up, everybody? Riddle's here back again. This is the Riddle Me This podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in for today's video. I hope everybody's having a great Saturday and a great weekend so far. I wanted to come on here and do something a little different. It's an album review, but it's not underground horrorcore juggalo related, like the things that I would normally do on this channel. It is for one of my favorite metal bands of all time, from the past 20 years or so, and that is Slipknot. And their brand new album, We Are Not Your Kind, which was just released yesterday. So, I want to come on here and just give my thoughts and a little review on it while it's still fresh in my mind and fresh in the minds of everybody else that's heard it. For me personally, my opinion, this was probably their most experimental album to date. If you take like elements from their first album, that self-titled debut album, and their second album, Iowa, which Iowa is probably my favorite Slipknot album of all time. If you take elements from those first two albums, and you take some of the softer, more melodic side of Corey's voice, like from Stone Sour, the Stone Sour material, and you take that and you add a little bit of like elements of indie rock, indie pop into it, you have We Are Not Your Kind, the new Slipknot album. They took a lot of chances, a lot of risks with this album, which I love and I commend them for. And what came out is an absolute fucking masterpiece of an album. 14 tracks. I have listened to this album from start to finish, back to front, several times before coming on here and doing this. And for me personally, this is one of those albums that you just put on, you just let it play, and it's great all the way through. No stopping. You're gonna fucking love it if you're a Slipknot fan and you haven't heard this album yet. Starting with the very first track, Insert Coin. This is like a little intro spot for the album, and it kind of bridges that gap from, okay, here's the intro, and we're going into Unsainted, which Unsainted, of course, is the, I guess you could say radio-friendly single for this album. Which Unsainted, a lot of people didn't like it and still don't like it. I personally love Unsainted. It has that Slipknot Stone Sour mix to it. And those two musical styles just gel perfectly together. Corey's voice on this song and throughout this album as a whole was probably the best I think I've ever heard. The third track, Birth of the Cruel, I just saw the video for this song. It's a great video. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. This is definitely one of the more brutal, harder tracks on the album. Death Because of Death. This is another one of those bridging the gap kind of things. It's a short song. It's like a minute and 21 or 22 seconds long, I think. And it bridges the gap between Birth of the Cruel and Nero Forte, which, for me personally, was one of the most brutal, hardcore songs on this entire album. Just amazing lyricism and the energy from this track. It's one of my favorites. Critical Darling It's another one of those. I love the chorus, the bridge in this. You just have to listen to it. A Liar's Funeral, track 7. This was, for me, and I know a lot of other people that I've listened to reviews for, this was like the big monster of a fucking track. Just so much going on here with this song. Corey's vocal range in this song is out of this world. So this song, A Liar's Funeral, is definitely up there with one of my favorites on this album, no doubt about it. Red Flag was great, love that one. What's Next was okay. I mean, What's Next kind of did its job on the song. It's kind of a cool down track, if you get what I'm saying. Spiders. This is another one of my favorites. You just have to go and listen to it. If you're looking at this title track, or at the title of this track, I should say. I'm sorry. And you're expecting this like brutal, hardcore, thrash, damn near death metal sounding song. That's not what you're in for. But it is very unsettling. It is the sound is very unsettling. It's disturbing. It's got this horror movie type of feel to it, and I love it. But yeah, it's just one of those, you're gonna just have to sit and just commit yourself to really listening to and getting into the mindset of. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like, what Slipknot did with songs like Scissors and Iowa, the title track from that album. It's just got this very unsettling, creepy horror movie vibe to it, and I just fucking love it. Orphan, again, another one of those tracks that it's kind of just a cool down because, Spiders was before that, and Spiders just really grabbed me and took a lot out of me, and Orphan was kind of that come down from that for me. Of My Pain, definitely one of the best spots on this album, one of the shining spots on this album. Corey's voice, you can just feel what he's talking about in the lyrics through his voice in this song. It is absolutely amazing. Just go listen to it. Not Long for This World was another one of those that was okay. I wouldn't really call it a cool down track or a filler or anything like that. It took me a couple times to really listen to it and get into it, but it's a great track nonetheless. The 14th and final track, Soulway Firth. This is probably my absolute number one favorite track on the album besides Spiders. Just the aggressiveness, the attitude, the lyrics, Corey's voice, the video if you haven't seen it, just all these things. It sounds so old school Slipknot like from the first two albums, and it just really brought me back to that time when I first discovered Slipknot and started listening to Slipknot in those first two albums, and without a doubt, it's probably my favorite number one track on this entire album. And it's a great finish, a great way to finish out the album. And they truly knocked it out of the park with this album. There's no question about it. Like I said, they set out to make this album an experience for the listener, and they succeeded 100% perfectly. So that is my review and my thoughts on the new Slipknot album. If you have not heard it, do yourself a favor, do yourself a service, and get a copy of this album. You will not be disappointed, especially if you're a diehard Slipknot fan like myself. So that is it for now. I am Riddles. This is the Riddle Me This podcast. I don't know if I'm going to be around much for the rest of the weekend with NXT TakeOver tonight and then SummerSlam tomorrow. I am a wrestling fan. For those of you that don't know, rocking the Velveteen Dream shirt. So probably won't be around for the rest of the weekend, but hopefully the coming week I will be back providing more content. So have a great weekend, everybody. Peace out, and I will talk to you later.